guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we have a follow-up to a university comparison video that I filmed way back in high school. So that video, which I'll link somewhere on the screen, is more of just our experiences applying to universities and why we picked our respective universities at the time, our decision process behind it. And it's more of just like an introduction to each university. However, this video, which I think will be much more useful, is actually based off of our personal experiences, because we're all in third year now, so we've actually gone through part of our programs and we've actually experienced life at our respective universities. I'm going to link some timestamps down in the description below if you want to skip to each respective topic. Another thing that I wanted to say is that this is an engineering edition, obviously, because all of us are studying engineering, so a lot of the things we talk about are going to be engineering specific. Having said that, I do include some topics that are more general, so if you're not going into engineering, hopefully you'll still be able to find some insight out of those topics as well. Also, just a side note, I am currently recovering from a cold. It's not COVID, thankfully I got it tested, but that's why my voice probably sounds a little weird, and you'll see me mute myself and cough throughout the video. Hi everyone, I'm Paris. I am in my third year of civil engineering at McMaster.
My name's Alice, and I'm in my third year of software engineering at Western University.
Hi, I'm Michael, and I am in my third year of chemical engineering at Queen's University.
Hi, I'm Domenic. I'm third year mechanical materials engineering at Western.
I'm Rebecca, and I'm currently going into my third year of biomedical engineering at the University of Waterloo.
My name's Patrick, and I'm in my third year of mechanical engineering at the University of Guelph.
I loved residence at Queen's. I thought it was a great atmosphere to be in, like very close-knit. The floors are very close-knit. I'm still friends with my floor. They give you a lot of activities to do, and the meal plan, which is I think mandatory with the residents at Queen's, I was really good. They offered you a lot of different choices. I know that Queen's, at least last time I checked, Queen's was #2 for like eating for first years. And so on top of like cafeterias, which will be like your main source of food, they give you plenty of options for like upgraded meals at like certain kind of, on campus like restaurants and stuff, which is really nice.
For my meal plan, the thing at Western, each residence has a different, I guess, style of eatery. My residence was not very good for food.
It's so good, actually. It's the best.
It is like, Kayla, compared to the other residences that have like, some residences have like specialty like meals that they get every once in a while. So they have like a burrito bar, like for example, ours, like my residences was the sandwich bar, which is like the unique eatery there.
Every single res has a deli, Domenic, no offense.
Does it? Okay, well, okay, so I guess we're just
No, the res, like all of the caps are like pretty much the same. Just Saugeen and Ontario have like a really big kitchen because they're like the two biggest res. So they have like special like interactive bars with like chefs who do like custom orders and stuff. Like you like make your own like ramen bowl or like make your own like, I don't know, like sushi, stir fry, pasta, like all of that.
So basically it was just better than our eatery, but I found that by the end, like I was getting really like tired. Like I got really like tired of the same food because it was the same few like.
Yeah, they have like a 2-week schedule, and then they kind of just like repeat that for the year.
I guess that's one different thing about McMaster is that our food was only like you order the meal that you wanted. We did not have anything buffet style. I had a great res experience. I got to live in the new residence, Peter George, so I was really lucky there. Also met one of my best friends. She was my bathmate in first year. So I had like a single room, shared a bathroom with one other person. So I had like the privacy of having a single, but also like kind of seemed like I had a roommate because I shared a bathroom with her. And then in terms of like campus food, I like the food at Mac. We have a lot of like good vegan options. I'm not vegan, but I do try to eat more plant-based. I don't think it was like spectacular food, but certainly doable for campus food.
The Guelph residence experience. I lived in South. I think if you're going to go to Guelph, you should try to get South as your residence. I lived in an engineering cluster, so it was like a building with like a tower, like 6 floors up and down with only engineers. that was connected to the rest of the building. So there's like little clusters for different specializations. I'd recommend doing that if you're going into Eng, just because like a lot of the friends that I have now, like everyone stayed pretty tight knit and pretty connected after that. Like if you didn't have someone to work with on a project or you didn't know what you were doing, you definitely have like the ability to reach out to someone you like kind of knew from your tower and get some support, which is nice. The residence I was in was like kind of, I'd say the pros are that it was really, really big. So it was kind of like a city that you could walk around in, and like there would always be something going on no matter where you were. And the cons is that it was really dirty. I think Dom came up to visit in first year and he slept on my floor, and it was yeah, like there's it's crazy. There's Dirty South is the nickname for a reason, because it's kind of wild. And food wise, I don't think the food, like I cannot overstate how good the food is at Guelph. It's really, really good. I had a varsity meal plan in first year and I finished it in like the first semester, because I just constantly ate the res food. It was so good.
For me, I lived in like an apartment suite style, which is probably a little different. 4 bedrooms in one suite, and then 2 people share one bathroom. And so kind of, we also had a kitchen, right? So I think in terms of meal plan, like I don't know if I can say a lot to it, just because we had the choice of eating in a caf, or you can just cook at home. And so I kind of did like 50-50. But I wouldn't say the food is that good though. It was like, it was okay, but it was kind of the opposite as Paris. Like we just had only buffet style, like you couldn't order if you wanted to. We have these like engineering sections. Like I would say the apartment suite that I lived at, we had like a lot of engineering majors there, just because it was like a 5-minute walk to the engineering building. And then some people like got a little unlucky and was living like very north of campus, and then they had to walk 20 minutes to the engineering buildings. So I think if you were going to Waterloo, I would definitely recommend the UWP plazas.
Is the apartment style like pretty standard for like Waterloo, or is that just like the building that you got?
Yeah, I would say it's like 50% of the residences. So it's like a cluster. There's like 4 different buildings, and then they have like apartment style with kitchens. And then there's also like a caf in the middle. But then if you go like north of campus, those are like very standard, like single rooms or like double rooms.
At Western, right? So there's the what is it, Elgin? Essex Hall. Essex Hall has the engineering floor on it, which is all apartment styles right next to the engineering building. I opted not to apply for it because what I thought going in, which I still am glad I did it, was I went to like a standard residence, because I'm already going to spend 40 hours a week with engineers. I don't need to spend another 40, right? So I'm like, what's really great is all my roommates now, except for the one who's actually, he lived across from me. We had all the exact same classes at first year. So it was really nice, just like, go to classes with someone. And again, we don't live together, but all my other roommates are all like non-engineering people. It's nice to have like a nice diverse group of people, because the downside I find with people in engineering, if you're like always hanging out with them, is that especially when there's like a big deadline coming up, everyone's just really stressed and everyone is all kind of like frantic together. But like if you have people that like aren't like, a lot of people that aren't engineering, that's kind of like they're kind of relaxed. You can like, okay, if I need like a breather, I can go and talk to them and go hang out with them for a bit. I found that really helped for me in first year. And then when I'm like, all right, I go back, like head down, got to go grind, I just go hang out with my engineering friends that I met from Glass.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Mac does have an engineering building or res building. I don't really know if it's not the whole building, but there's like certain floors on that building. I'm pretty sure it's Head Hall. You can apply to be in that living learning community. It's not called like an engineering living learning community. I think it's called innovation, but pretty much all engineers pick that one. I did not want to pick that one. Similar reason as Domenic, like I love my engineering friends, but I also wanted to meet people outside of my program. So I'm glad I did that, but I was still able to meet a ton of people in engineering, obviously through classes and stuff as well. Did Queens have any engineering specific residences or?
I don't think they had any engineering specific residences. I wouldn't be surprised if they had like a couple floors maybe dedicated to engineering. I'm not quite sure about it.
Okay.
But yeah, I can't say that there's a specific residence for it. So
I went into engineering because I don't know, I like applying the science and the math and whatnot. But I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do with more like technical studies. So it's I applied for Western, McMaster, and Queens because I had general first years, because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to apply directly into. But after going into first year with the general, you do get all, especially at Western, you get all the different types of like areas where you might be interested. So there's like a statics class where you learn a lot of like the foundations of civil engineering. Personally, what I found was that, especially with the materials class we had, I really, really liked it. I found myself like really engrossed in this class specifically. So as I kind of went through and did all these other classes, I learned more stuff, and I found that I did want to go into material engineering, which at Western it's mechanical materials engineering.
I basically like the same thing as Dominic. I like picked Western because I really like that they had like a general first year. You really do get to try like literally everything. Like you have to take a business course, you have to like a IB course, you have to do programming, like chemistry, like, and a lot of the stuff that you're exposed to is stuff that you're not exposed to in high school. I picked software and I didn't see like a single line of code in high school. So that's something that like if I were to pick like software engineering from grade 12, I would have never like considered that as an option.
For me, I don't know why I picked it. I think I just thought that it was kind of a nice balance between like biomed and engineering. But then entering the program, I think that was kind of a misconception because we don't have like general engineering, right? So when you pick it, you're kind of committed. And it's like pretty difficult to switch between engineering disciplines. I mean, some people do it regardless, but like you do have to potentially lag back a year, and if that's something you're willing to sacrifice, then I realized that it's like more technical. Waterloo is interesting in that like no matter what discipline you're in, you have to like program no matter what. And then that's kind of how, because even though I'm doing biomed, I'm like more drifted towards like software, even though there's like biomedical devices and whatever, but I don't know, like it's kind of like a spontaneous decision, and like I kind of just got drifted into like the tech space. But that's just something to keep in mind, like if you want to apply to Waterloo and you know for sure that you want to do a discipline. Otherwise it's like pretty hard to explore, like to get out or to transfer between disciplines.
Do you like what you're doing though?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't regret it, because I think it's nice that like we have a lot of technical courses and a lot of like, I think the program is different from like other programs, is that we have like more biomed driven problem spaces. Like for example, our design courses are mostly like they have a biomedical problem space. So then with that, you kind of have to have that bio or chemistry aspect of it. But I would say it's still very like physics and math heavy, and less on the bio side. But I don't know, like before picking it, I did want to potentially go into medicine, and like I wanted to do science. But I think had I gone down that path, it would probably be completely different. But yeah, like I don't hate what I'm doing, but at the same time, it's not like what I planned for at all.
I picked engineering because I don't like biology, because I'm passionate about the environment, and so I knew civil was like kind of encompassing that. But I also really like physics, and statics is like really fun for me, although really difficult. I still find it really hard. That's long story short why I picked engineering.
Honestly, I was gonna do chemistry until I joined the AB Lucas robotics team, and then I was like, "This is so sick! I like this is so cool. Robots are so fun." And then I like last minute, I changed my schedule so I could take physics because I hadn't taken any physics. I took grade 11 physics in 12th grade and then 12th grade physics in summer school. And Guelph was the only school where I could do that. And I applied for mechanical engineering because I didn't really know what kind I wanted to do. And they have like 4 different mechanical streams. So you can do like mechanical biomed, mechanical like robotics, and like mechanical environmental, etc. Like hybridized streaming stuff.
Join extracurriculars in high school because
Yeah.
you never know what might spark an interest.
When I was applying to universities, I guess I never really had like a strong grasp of like what engineering like could or would be. So I guess like conservatively, I picked just general science. I was lined up to be like a bio or like a chemistry or a biochemistry major. And then pretty early on, like I think it was around November or so, I kind of felt like I wasn't doing enough applicable skills, like stuff that could be used in like workplaces. And after thinking about it for a while, and like doing some research, I really like the idea of switching to engineering, learning more stuff that would be useful in workplaces, not just learning about like the theory and just basic science, but how they're used today. And so going back to like bio and chemistry, I switched over to biochemistry or biochemical engineering. It was a pretty simple process, I can't lie. I know that at Queen's it varied a lot based on what type of engineering you want to switch into. I know a handful of people that switched into chemical engineering that found like it was pretty easy, but I know some other people who transferred over into mechanical who had to work really, really hard to make sure that their grades in first year were attractive enough to be like let in. I talked over with a bunch of academic advisors about like what the switch would be like what my grades should be. And the academic advisors at Queen's were super helpful. And I look back at like the choice I made, and I don't think there's been a day where I like regretted it. I'm very happy that I switched into chemical engineering. So
Yeah, that's amazing. So you don't have to take like longer to graduate, right? You graduate in the same amount of.
No, the great thing is I'd say about 2/3 of my courses originally would transfer over, and then since I knew that I wanted to go into engineering, I actually like switched out one of my courses in second semester, so it would be a transfer course. And so going into second year, I was 3 courses behind, I believe. I took one in the summer between first and second year. I took another course in the summer last year, and I'm gonna hopefully take one this year, and then I think I'll be like just on schedule.
In first year, when we had like our general engineering classes, I always remember sitting in lecture, looking around and being like, wow, there's so many girls. And like literally I'd look around and all I see are girls. And I'm like, what are they talking about? There's no issue here of like lack of women in STEM. But then I was like editing one of my videos. I had done like a pan of the classroom, and in that clip, all I saw were guys. And so what I realized was that
Girls stick together.
girls cluster together. They sit
Yes,
together.
that's best. Because
So-
I also don't notice how little girls there are in
Yeah,
soccer until
yeah.
like you split the class into even groups and there's like one girl per group and you're like, wait.
Which I think is very, very interesting. However, in civil engineering, I would say, okay, I don't know the numbers, but it feels like it's like 50-50. I've had a few classes in person, well, tutorials and labs in person. And in those tutorials and labs, I see like 50% girls. But that's civil. I don't know if Rebecca, you felt the same way.
I would say I've like talked to some of my friends in other engineering disciplines, and yeah, like it's definitely shows, especially like for computer, like electrical. For me, I think mostly the ratio is like 60% male, 40% female. Like it's pretty balanced, I would say. And so I didn't really feel it in my program, like even just like group projects and everything, like it's pretty balanced. But other engineering disciplines, I definitely have heard that it's like a lot worse.
I found that being in mechanical engineering, I think like I look around the room and I'm like, especially even in first year, like I could look around the room and be like, there's like not a lot of girls around. But like now that I'm in, there's like smaller classes and I can like more reasonably like see everyone. There's like definitely a lot less women. But I think that what's good though is that like even if you do like I know it can be hard. It's like going into a very male dominated program, but I know that like all the women in my program all like friends and they're like more close than what would like be the guys, right?
So at Guelph in my first year, my like residence building, the like engineering cluster was probably like 55% girls, 45% guys. And like my first year classes, like especially the general, what is it called? Like the physics for engineers 1 and those classes where everyone in all the disciplines were taking them, those were like pretty evenly split, maybe a little bit more guys than girls, maybe like 65% guys. But now that I'm in third year, like taking machine design, I have like that's my best example. It's a like a mechanical only course. There are probably like 65 guys and like 4 or 5 girls. So the ratio is kind of dropped off. I think it's just like a discipline thing. Like not like discipline, like the different disciplines have different ratios. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I think Michael, like chemical probably has more girls, right?
I was gonna say, one of the cool things about being in Chem Eng is that the gender diversity is really good, at least at Queen's. I remember looking at one of my class lists. I'm pretty sure it was like almost on the dot, like 50%. But I know that like for chemical engineering, that's typically one that does better.
Yeah, I think it's definitely very, very program dependent, regardless of what university you're at.
I will say it looks a lot scarier than it actually is. If you kind of keep up with like going to class and working with the schedule that like they have kind of set out for you, then like you can usually stick to it.
Yeah, and like labs, it looks like you have a lot of class time, but labs are usually not every single week because they're like 3-hour labs. They were like maybe
We're alternating for us.
like every other week, 5 times a semester type of thing. So it's not actually that bad.
Like I've heard profs fully say it's like impossible as a first year student to go to like every single class, do the homework for like every single thing, go to every single one of your tutorials. Like they're like, it's like actually not possible. Cause like for every hour of class time, you're supposed to like review for that. And then like you're supposed to sleep and eat and like whatever. So like I feel like if you like skip classes or whatever, like don't beat yourself up. If you do fall behind like one day or whatever, like it's like so normal.
One other thing, I'm actually curious. So I know Western had, you guys had 7 courses. Is that
We had
only
7 each
first
semester.
year, or do you still have 7?
No, that's only first year. Now I have 5, and last year I had 6. Like it's actually so crazy. This year was so easy for no reason.
Okay, so I had 7 in my first year, but then for mechanical, they go 6 and 7 for second year. And this year, I think I have 5 and 6. And then fourth year, I finally get an elective.
Yeah, for software, it's the same. I don't have any electives. Like I have like technical electives, but like you get to pick from a list. And then I only get one elective like my entire degree.
Every year you have your course load, which is either 5 or 6 classes, plus a design course, which is like a course where you do like a big project. I think we're 6 every semester plus this project.
Yeah, I would say it's the same for us as well. First year was 7, 6, and then now it's around 6. But yeah, we don't have electives as well. I mean, we kind of do, but they're usually just grouped into fourth year.
For Queens, I think it's, and like at least my program, it's been about like 6 each like semester.
Mac is technically in first year, you're supposed to do 6 and 6. I did 6 and 5 because I didn't want to take, I think it was like electricity and magnetism. I took that in the summer instead. Like the engineering course load is more than like the average, which is like 5, I'm pretty sure. But you can definitely do 5 and then do summer school, or you can just take an extra half a semester or a year to graduate. It's actually what I'm doing. I'm doing a minor as well, so that's why I'm taking 5 years to graduate from a 4-year program. But because I have that extra room, I am not like killing myself by taking 6 courses. I vowed to never take 6 courses again. You don't have to do 6 courses a semester, and you could still get an engineering degree. That's what I just want to put out there. One common thing that I heard, at least in grade 12, I don't know if you guys did, but I got a lot of like, your grades are going to drop, especially if you're going into engineering. So I'm curious as to whether your grades dropped, whether they stayed the same, whether they rose. I think my grades dropped around 5%. I had to work like even harder to like still maintain that 5% drop.
I think kind of varies based on which term. Like I would say first year, it definitely dropped like 10%, unfortunately. But then I think like as I go, I kind of get like the flow and I understand like how to study. So it did rise up a little bit.
I found that my grades dropped, I think about 10%. I went from 93 average in high school to an 83 average in university. But I also think that what you're doing in university is very different from what you're doing in high school, because in high school, especially in grade 12, you are like literally trying to like perfect your classes because you're trying to get the high grades for university. But when you're in university at that point, it's much more about understanding everything, much more than perfecting, because you have so many classes that you literally can't perfect that for a single one of your classes. So it becomes much more like a challenge of, do I understand the base concepts of all these classes? And since then, I think I've had the same average every single year since then, even as the courses get harder or whatever.
I found that like for me, there were actually like some courses that I did better in university. They're just like 2 or 3, but yeah, generally my average dropped. I probably say like, yeah, anywhere from like 5 to 10% or so. Queen's engineering is a cult. Like it's pretty intense. It's fun. I didn't go through like the full first year experience, but I know plenty of people who did. And there is a very good community at Queens because of it. Even like between like disciplines, all of my classes, like had group chats. There's a very strong sense of community.
At Western, I would also say that there's a really, really strong sense of community. We're also like a cult, and O-Week experience is also very like, I feel like unique for Western as well, like our Eng stops. As for like competitiveness, all of Western Eng is really like friendly. But I can speak for software. I remember one time we were all really stressed about this quiz, and this guy who understood the course content was literally just like, oh guys, like everyone who doesn't understand, hop on Discord in like an hour, like I'll explain everything. And like that's like pretty common. Like we all like send solutions and like help each other. And like our group chat is like people sending screenshots of the errors that they get, and then other people like replying and helping them and stuff.
It's very similar for mechanical. A lot of mechanical problems are much more conceptual than like, like I'm getting an error. It's like, I don't really understand this, or there was like this question on the practice I couldn't get. And usually people are very easy to be like, oh, here's my answer. Here's what the teacher said. Oh, I talked to the teacher today about so-and-so, like, here's what she said. Like, I find I do a lot of my work like by myself, which is like, that's like how I work. But I know if I have like a question, like anyone, like I'll be like, hey man, do you mind helping with this? Like, of course. Like they're like always super down to help. And so I think especially at Western, it's very like anti-competitive. Like everyone wants to like help each other.
Yeah, and it's a very like we're all in this together, and then like it's like if everyone fails, like we're all failing, like we're all counting on the curve, or like we're all passing, and like we're all gonna help every single person like do good and stuff.
I would say my experience is also the same, where I guess like once the pandemic happened, we kind of shifted into using Discord servers, and so we have like channels for each class. So it has been like a great way of organizing it in our cohort. And then we have like a bigger BME server where it's like every single year, and so that's where you can like reach out to a lot of upper years to ask for advice. Yeah, but in terms of competitiveness, I don't think we're that competitive. I think in first year it was a little bit because everyone kind of came from like top of the class background sort of, but then like as it went on, we kind of all died down, and like we kind of was like a community.
Yeah, I don't think Guelph was very competitive either. There was very little fighting over anything. It was really, yeah, a lot less. There was a Discord, and there's like the same kind of like, oh, there's like upper years you can ask, you can talk to people about course selection, etc. You can ask questions. The Discords aren't as popular. I know like there's a big engineering building, and there is like if you see someone you know from one of your classes, people do like come up and ask questions like, oh, are you getting this? Like, what's going on with this? What was he saying in last lecture? I don't understand at all. And people will like be very willing to like come up to you and help you out. So yeah, it's pretty good. And there's not really any competitiveness over co-op either. It's pretty like everyone's kind of, you try your best to get a job, and if it gets sniped by someone else, like that's nothing you can do about it. You know what I mean?
Similar at Mac, it's a really good community. I don't feel like it's competitive at all. Similar to Dominic, I also kind of work by myself for the most part. That's just like the way I study. But we do have group chats, and like I know people are very willing to help out in those group chats. Like people will just send like, hey, I don't get this question, and someone will literally send their full solution. Like we have a good community at Mac too. It's good to hear that no engineering school is really super competitive. What has your co-op experience been like?
For Western, what they like encourage is they have an integrated 12 to 18 month co-op. I'm looking for both summer and year-long co-ops. This is the first time I'm applying. I probably applied for 15, 20 right now. I've either gotten no response back, or I've gotten, you don't have the required experience, or I've had one video interview, or one like pre-recorded video interview and one written interview. And I didn't hear back from them. So
Dominic, where are you applying? Like, are you applying through like Western's co-op program or just like online?
So I've applied between a mix of Western co-op program, Indeed,
LinkedIn?
somewhere else, LinkedIn, and then a couple through like their website. It definitely is a much more of a numbers game, I think, at this stage, because like everyone's looking for a co-op, and there's still like not as many co-ops right now, especially during a pandemic.
And Alice, similar experience?
Yeah, this is also the first year that I'm applying. I think Western recommends you do 3 years and then the 1 year of co-op and then your last year. But you can apply after first and second year. Your chances are probably just like lower. Like obviously, unless you have like a bunch of projects and stuff. I have applied to one so far and I heard back and I have an interview like in like a week or something.
Yay.
So we have a first term in second year, and then we have a second term after first semester, third year. So my first term, I remember this, I applied for 39 jobs through the Guelph, Experience Guelph co-op page, and I only heard back from one, which is apparently actually a really common experience. Those jobs are posted on like every school's board, or a lot of them are. So they don't really, they're not super likely to get back to you. I'd say that volume is really, really important. And also, I think if you're going into your first co-op term before you have any work experience, you should try your best to like I lined up at like a network job, they call it. I think it's probably better to try to do that for your first co-op job, just because it's like not a lot of companies are willing to take a chance on you. At least that's like the common experience that I've heard from the Guelph people, from the experience Guelph, for your first co-op term. It's apparently a lot easier getting in the second time, but the first time is quite a struggle.
Because co-ops are kind of like mandatory for us to graduate, and then we kind of have to like have that alternating structure of like studying for 4 months and then co-op for 4 months. So as of now, I've had 3 co-ops in software. I actually just had my last one, just ended a couple weeks ago, and then I'm heading into like my first term of third year in January. So that's why, like, I guess that's the program is prolonged a little bit. But yeah, I definitely would agree. Like in terms of applying in the beginning, it was definitely really tough. Like it was, Dominic mentioned, it's like definitely a numbers game. Like you applied for, I don't know, like 300 jobs, and then you get interviewed for like 7 to 8, and then you maybe get like one offer if you're lucky. So yeah, it's actually really rough. Like I would say first year was definitely a struggle, especially like the summer where I had to find a job was when the pandemic just hit. It does get easier though, I would say.
I can't speak a whole lot on like the Queen's Co-op, but definitely heard the same things as everyone else. You know, all the volume, get as many resumes as you can in.
I actually disagree with the advice of just send in as many resumes as possible. I would say quality over quantity. Mac is not mandatory co-op, but it's like encouraged. I would say after first year, just talking to like my friends in engineering, not many people had the priority of like looking for a co-op. I did a co-op after first year, and then I've done 2 co-ops up until now. I did one last year as well. Last year was my first time like applying for co-ops, because my one in first year, that was like research. But last year was my first time applying. I only applied to 24 co-ops, and I really spent like a lot of time tailoring each resume and cover letter. And I think I had 7 interviews out of 24. So I would say my advice is to go quality over quantity. Don't just send out resumes. But I did want to mention McMaster has a really like good support system in terms of like career services. I met with my the co-op advisor person 4 times before some of my interviews to do interview practice. Met with them like 4 or 5 times to go over my resume and cover letter. And this is all for free. I think most schools have it. I think you just have to take advantage of it. I'm actually not in any engineering specific extracurriculars because I don't know if it's just me, but I'm like, I've had enough of engineering stuff. I'd rather like not spend my free time doing more engineering things. So the ones I'm involved in, zero waste, McMaster, and sustainability, because I'm very passionate about that. I am on the tennis teams. That takes up a good chunk of my time during first semester. I'm in DECA, but that's like very, very low commitment. And then I guess fourth extracurricular is like church, but I don't know if you count that or not. So those are the ones I'm in. But if you are looking for engineering specific clubs at McMaster, we do have a lot. We have like McMaster solar car, like some kind of concrete toboggan sled racing. There's like a hyperloop team, which is cool if you're interested in that. There's definitely lots of options if you are looking for engineering ones at McMaster.
I can't lie, I feel the exact same as you, Paris. It's just like, you know, with all the time I spend in like my classes and stuff like that, I'm happy to get away for a little bit. But same thing with Queens, like all those teams I think, or like the clubs as well. Like we have like the concrete toboggan, hyperloop, and everything. I know for me, I'm on like the triathlon team. I think it's definitely important for your mental health to get some sort of like exercise just some way just to, blow off some steam?
I don't have a ton of extracurricular stuff. I did like a couple of conferences through the school. Those were pretty cool. There was like a professional development conference that was kind of interesting. But honestly, I feel kind of the same as you and Mike were saying. At the end of my week, I have like maybe 3 or 4 free hours to throw around where I'm not working on something school related or doing something school related. So I like to just like, relax and take my mind off of it for the most part.
I've had a mix of both. The first 2 years, I didn't do any engineering specific extracurriculars. The one difficulty I found, especially with online, was that I realized how much I missed actually doing stuff with labs and whatnot, because it was all online, right? We didn't really have any labs. It was just look at these numbers or look at this process being done. So I really appreciated doing stuff with my hands. That's what I personally like. So that's why I started joining more extracurriculars. And again, same with both Queens and McMaster. They have the classic like WECA, concrete canoe, all these very, very similar. So honestly, if you join one, I found that they're very accommodating with your schedule because everyone there is in engineering, so everyone has a bunch of work. So for example, we have a deadline to complete some like certifications for our like sizing for this car, and they're just like, oh yeah, like, well, I was like, oh man, I'm like so busy, I don't know if I can do it. Like, oh, it's fine, just take the winter to do it. Yeah, okay, because everyone is so busy that everyone understands.
Did you say concrete canoe?
Yeah, there's a concrete canoe and a concrete toboggan.
Wait, how does that work?
They engineering,
Well,
baby.
join the club and find out, girl.
They,
What?
they sink a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, the goal is to sink the fastest, Ferris.
Oh, interesting.
For me in first year, I was part of like a biomechatronics club where it was kind of like, I think all the biomeds and the mechatronics engineering majors, we partnered together, and then it's a lot of like various projects, but one of them that I worked on was like 3D printing different parts for like an arm. So that was interesting. And then after like everything shifted online, I got part of a UW Blueprint, which is like we partner with nonprofit organizations to essentially develop projects for them. So like examples are like website redesign, or like if they want a portal. So it's like we have like student teams of around I don't know, like 8 to 10 teams, and each team has like their own developers, designers, PMs. So that was also a great way to gain experience, like even just outside of co-op or jobs.
Yeah, I think engineering clubs, it's a great way of like getting experience before your first co-op. I think a lot of employers are looking for that. For me, wasn't really interested in like technical engineering roles. So I didn't see a need in doing engineering co-ops. But I do know friends who have like gotten their first co-ops because they had the extracurricular experience in engineering stuff. So it can be important. I know in the first video we filmed, we were just basing it off of like stereotypes. Was it what you expected? Obviously, social life is what you make of it. If you want to go every weekend, you can go out every weekend. I know that's the case regardless of school, but
I think with like Westerns, like is like, they say, oh, it's the party school, which I'm like, yeah. I think that it really is what you make of it, because I know a lot of people that will just stay and don't really care. I know a lot of more people that will go out every weekend or go out, very habitually go out, more than just kind of like, oh, I have whatever, right? They sort of base their time around going out. I think some people that are like, not always the engineers. I know a lot of engineers that just don't care, but I also know a lot of engineers that will be like, oh, it's Thursday night, we're going to X, Y, and Z. But yeah, it really is what you make of it. As long as you have time, like, right? If you have time, you can do it. If you don't have time, you don't want to do it, it's really up to you. I know there's less pressure than you'd think.
I think it really depends on the person, and like you said, Paris, like it is really what you make of it. And also like there's just such a big like it varies between like every engineer so much. Like on any given Friday night, I could probably find 10 engineers to study with me, and I could probably find like 10 engineers to go party with me.
Yeah, I feel like for Queens, it's pretty much the exact same, Dom, as like you said. They definitely provide the opportunity to have as much partying and interactions as you want with like people, whether it's in your program or just like, let's just say like a random person like you met. They definitely have like a lot of opportunity to do that, but there isn't a whole lot of stress on it. If that's not your thing, you totally stay in every weekend. I know for me, I find that it's a good way to, make friends, and a good way to, I guess end the week, but it doesn't need to be every week. So
I think I remember I said the stereotype was like people are pretty social at Guelph. I think that's fairly true. Like on the weekends, there's usually stuff going on. Like it really depends on who you like are friends with. You know what I mean? Like if you are friends with people who like to go out, you'll feel like people like to go out, and if you're friends with people who don't, you'll feel like people don't. You know what I mean? I think that I have a good mix of friends, and some of them like to go and some of them don't. And it also really depends on the part of the semester you're in. Like the first couple weeks of the semester, first maybe 3 or 4 weeks, like it's pretty easy to find people to go out with. But when like midterm crunch time comes around, or like project season comes around, it's you'll be pretty hard pressed to find some people to go to the bar with.
I agree with everyone. And also like social life doesn't have to, translate to just partying. Like I've spent a lot of just quality time with my friends in my program as well, where we would we would study together, but we also like do another activity. There was this one time where we like crammed a chemistry lab, but on top of that, we were like trying to bake at the same time. So I don't know, like it was just like, I guess, yeah, it is what you make of it and like what activities you decide to do with your friends.
Yeah, I think it really, obviously different schools have different, like what they're known for. Like obviously Western and Queens are known to be party schools, and like maybe a little bit of Guelph, I don't really know. But because university is like such a big place, you're really able to like pick and choose your friends, and you'll find people that have the same interests as you. If you don't want to go out every weekend, you can find people, as Alice said, you can find 10 engineers to study with you on a Friday night if you want. Just because university is so diverse, you really do have that freedom to not go out every weekend, but you also have the freedom to if you want to, regardless of what university you're at. Was it easy to find? How close are most student houses to campus? Like how many minutes walking? What are the types of houses typically available, and rent prices if you're comfortable? Like just giving like a range, not necessarily what you pay, but what you've come across, because I think it's different, very different depending on the city you're in.
Our stream is like kind of unlucky because what we did was we signed the lease before the pandemic, and then after we had to like try to find housing for January. So I would say like pandemic aside is probably easier to find, but so far it's been like pretty difficult. Like we have a Facebook group where people can like post. We usually, since we only rent for like 4 months at a time, we mostly just sublet off of each other, unless like for sure that you're going to be there for a longer amount of time. That's when you really sign a lease. But I would say type of housing is mostly apartment style, and then distance to campus. I think it depends like where you find, because there is like housing all around campus, right? But then you can like pick and choose depending on which buildings that you're mostly going to be studying in. The particular area that I'm thinking of is like not that far, maybe like 10 to 15 minutes. But you can find like further, it's just like 20 minutes, but probably that's like the maximum distance walk to campus. And then in terms of pricing, right now, it's like pretty overpriced. You can find like housing for 800, but then it kind of goes all upwards until like 1100. Like for next term, I'm paying like $1,000 like for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom suite. So I guess that gives a rough idea, but in general, I would say mainly apartments, but I do know people that live in houses, but like that's like a 15-minute bus ride to campus, so it's a little bit far. But walking distance is mostly apartments.
Is it 1,000 split between you and your roommate, or 1,000 just for you?
No, just like one person. Like it's
Cool.
yeah, it's bad.
Like insane.
I guess it makes
Jeez.
sense because it's apartment style, right? That it's higher. Like it's gonna be less in a house.
They know that the Waterloo engineers, their co-ops get them some money, and then they just try to take all of it away from you, right?
Yeah, it's actually like it's funny because in the beginning we were like, oh, like co-op, we're gonna like make money, but in reality, like it kind of balances out completely. Like for rent, like you just make zero profit.
Yeah. You break even?
Yeah. You definitely break even, but like with food and everything. And I think like, well, I don't know if you'll break even if you didn't work remotely though. Like for my previous co-ops, I've been working at home. But like had it been in person, I don't think it would have. I don't think I would have break even. But
So for Western, I guess there is both housing and apartments. There's a lot of apartments in London. Everyone talks about Lux as like the big apartment building because it's just like right next to the university, but it's very expensive. But there's also like 50 bajillion like apartments everywhere in London. There's like a bunch of streets that surround both the north and south end of campus, or east and west, both ends of campus. So it's not insanely difficult to find a house, especially no matter what you're kind of like what size you're looking for. I'm currently living in a house with 5 other roommates, and so we have a house, 6-person house. We live maybe like, I think it's to the engineering building, it's a 20-minute walk, which honestly is not that bad. Like to the closest end of campus is like 10-minute walk. It's also really close to the downtown area, so you can like walk to like the grocery store and walk to wherever else you need to. Price ranges, I think if you want to live, I have a friend who lives in like the further end. He takes one bus and gets to campus. It's actually still not that bad. He pays, I think, like 500 a month. He might pay less, but he pays something very, very reasonable. And then I know some people that pay like 1,100, 1,200 for like a single style apartment. So it's really up to like what your situation is, who you want to live with.
So for like a house, would it be like
I
600,
feel like
700?
yeah, like 500 to 600 depending on how bougie your house is. Because also like some houses have air conditioning and some houses in London are like the really, really old ones near campus. And like a lot of people's like basements will like flood when it rains and like stuff like that. So it really depends on the house.
So
Like,
so I pay about 600, and that's including utilities, including whatever else. But at the same time, let me show you.
Oh, are you in the basement? Is that why?
The ceilings in the basement that I live in. Oh, that is also my sink.
like yeah, live footage. Like this was yesterday.
I know Guelph, there's like kind of 3 sections that a lot of people live in. There's either like you live in a house, which is I live in a house or a townhouse, and you're maybe between a 15-minute and like a 25-minute walk from campus. Or you live in one of the 2 big apartment sections, or you could live somewhere else, but that's where a lot of people live. Either Chancellor's, which is a little closer, like maybe 15 minutes away, and it's a big apartment. It's kind of almost like an extended residence. It's pretty much all students. It's not crazy expensive, I think. I don't really know the data on Chancellor's, but I know that it's really loud, and it's known for being full of parties a lot of the time. So that's kind of something you have to know when you want to move in there. And then there's Solstice, which is like another apartment building that's not quite as bad, or not quite as loud. Sorry, Chancellor's isn't bad. It's just loud, but it's that one's maybe a 20-minute walk, and it's I think a little more expensive than Chancellor's as well. So I pay like $550 a month for rent, but the prices for rent like vary incredibly widely. Like someone living in my like I live in a townhouse, someone living in an identical townhouse in the same complex pays $1,000 a month for the same room. So like don't get scammed, I guess, is the lesson. Like they really, you can get charged pretty much anything for any kind of room. I know someone who has a huge building right beside the school, they pay $450 a month. Like there's no sort of logic to or reason to what places cost. So try your best to get something relatively expensive, I guess. And there are good finds out there, but you can definitely get scammed.
One of the most attractive things for Queens is that there's like a very good sense of community, and part of that is like the student housing is like directly off campus, and if you were to draw like a square around the entirety of like student housing and like Queens campus, it's like a little more than like a square kilometer. A pretty reasonable assumption to say like any student housing that you'll be in Queens, you'll be at most 20 minutes within any of your classes or any of your friends. Like it's really good in that sense. Pretty much all of the housing will be like houses that you'll share with roommates. There are some apartment buildings, but it's, you know, most people go through housing. The one thing is that even though like I guess like our campus and houses would be similar to like Westerns or Guelphs, it is a little more expensive just because of how good like the community is. So like the landlords there have increased the rent like a little too much. So before utilities and internet expect to pay around 600 to 750. That's about the range. If you're going for something fancy, you're gonna pay a little more. I would doubt you'd find anything less than 600.
I feel like Mac, similar to Queens, all the student houses, it's mostly student houses. There's like 2 apartments, but one of them is like a little bit further, so I don't know that many people that live there. But you could like draw, maybe not a square, I don't know what shape, but most of the student houses are very close to campus. I got really lucky this year. My house is 5 minutes away from campus. Like to the one end, it's like maybe a 3-minute walk. I'm like literally right next to campus. In terms of like rent prices, it sounds like cheaper than the other cities. I pay $575 and I have an attic room. So I have like the most expensive room in the house and I'm like 3 minutes away from campus. Last year I paid $540. So it's really around $500. People living in the basement in general, you can get away with paying like $300, $400 for a basement room. With high ceilings too. So yeah, I guess it's very different. McMaster has a good off-campus housing situation, I would say, and you're very close to friends. We have something called Westdale Village, literally a little cute little village. They have like a bunch of shops and restaurants, grocery store, all very within like walking distance. In general, maybe on average, you're probably like a 10-15 minute walk away from campus for the average person. I just got really lucky with my house that it's super close.
The biggest or the best advice I can give anyone is you're pretty much going to be getting very similar education across the board. So unless there's like a very specific aspect of one school's program that you're looking to do, it's going to be very similar. So the thing that's going to separate it is the campus and like the city. The best thing you can do before choosing your university is check out the campus. And like if you have the chance to, like, just go, and like that one will make you feel most comfortable and like with like what your decision will be. And I feel like it will be the best for like deciding what you wanna or where you want to go.
Yeah, I agree. I ruled out, like I didn't apply to many schools that I thought I was going to apply for in grade 9 because of their campus. Because I like felt like I was going to be sad for like 4 years. Will not name which schools, but
McMaster.
Yeah, the exact same way that I feel about McMaster, because McMaster was my dream school for like most of grade 12, and then I visited the campus with Paris, and I immediately was like, no.
But
like,
see, that's
I
so
just
interesting.
Knew, like I just knew that I could eliminate it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna literally me too.
Yourself.
Yeah, no, Domenic, like same. And now me and Domenic are both in because we both were like thinking about Mac too. Like I remember we both applied to Mac.
But that's why you really have to see it for yourself, because I had the complete opposite. Like I loved Mac's campus. It really depends on the person. Like we can't say.
Please go to your schools, like step foot onto the campus, because you never know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like this close. I was like ready to click the like accept button, and then I'm like, maybe I should go there.
Like, my laptop
it.
had literally 8 Mac stickers on it, like 8 Mac.
Yeah, you did.
Like,
yeah, you really did.
One advice I have is, I think like a lot of people pick Waterloo because they think that the co-op program is really great. But I just want to address that, like, it's kind of like different. It kind of depends on like what you want to do because of the job, I guess, the jobs that are available for you to apply to. It's like mostly tech jobs. So like, unless you want to go into that, or you want to try it, or you want to have like technical co-ops, that's something that I would suggest. But otherwise, like, regardless of program, right? Like I'm in biomed and I'm still doing software co-ops just because that's like the jobs that are available. And then also, like, I know a lot of like management engineering people also do like tech. So it's just like, if you're not prepared to do that, like I know for biomed, they do have biomed co-ops, but they're like very rare. And usually it's like when you're in 3rd or 4th year. So that's just something to think about, that even though the co-op program might be like really, really great, but because of the jobs that are available, sometimes you might be like kind of forced to do software. And if you're not interested in software at all, then maybe not. Maybe don't come to Waterloo.
Would you say regardless of discipline, there's a lot of software jobs?
Yeah. So basically, like in the job hunt, so we have like a portal where employers can post their jobs. Every term it kind of differs a little bit, but I would say the rough number is around like 1,000 jobs that they post. Yeah, maybe more. So like for the first round, they post like 1,000 jobs. And like out of that, I would say 80% of it is just software jobs. Like so yeah, it's like if you love software, like definitely, but if that's not something you're interested in, or like for sure that you don't want to program, then it'll be difficult to find a co-op job.
Another piece of advice I'd say is don't be afraid to ask questions. I know a lot of, and that's like in general, because I know a lot of people that are like either afraid to ask questions in class or to talk to their like profs or to talk to anybody. And like really everyone at the like you begin to realize in university that everyone is just like another person. So like if you ask them a question, they're never going to be like, that's a dumb question, don't ever ask me that. They'll just be like, oh yeah, for sure. Like if you were unclear about something, you can ask prof, TA, someone else in your class. If you have a question in the middle of a lecture, like I've had a lot of profs that will just like make a ton of mistakes. So if you're being like, something like doesn't seem right here, like this doesn't make sense, and you ask them, sometimes just be like, oh, my bad, erase it, fix it. And a lot of times, like someone else will be thinking the exact same thing, but like won't want to say it. And same goes with like, if you are interested in a prof mentions their like research or their research work, and you're kind of like, oh, that seems interesting, just go and talk to them, be like, hey, like I was wondering if you like tell me a little bit more about that. It sounds like super interesting. I had a class once where the class teacher like briefly mentions it, and someone asked him, we sat around for another like 20 minutes just talking to the prof about what he was doing, because it was super cool.
I'll say Dominic's really good at asking questions. I remember like in grade 12 and 11, you'd always ask a question that everyone else was thinking, and I always be like, thank you so much for asking that. But asking questions goes a long way, especially in university, like office hours, going to office hours and asking questions, that helps a lot. Yeah, one advice I'd have for like picking schools and programs that I wish I did back in grade 12 is look at the courses that you're going to be taking, like all 4 years. Look at which courses, if you're looking at a specific program, let that kind of help you guide your decision. I think that's really important. I didn't do that with civil, and now I'm having to take a lot of courses that I didn't realize I was going to have to take and I'm not super interested in. So I don't know, I would say like look at the full curriculum, because that's available online. Just search up the school program and courses, you can see that. Join extracurriculars. I think they're really, really important, and it helps you meet friends. It helps with like getting co-ops if it's like relevant to the field that you are interested in working in. Yeah, those would be my two.
The thing that I think I realized the most was different between like high school and university was university is very like choose your own adventure. Like you can really kind of do whatever you want. And you're really in charge of yourself a lot more than you are in high school. Ultimately, the school that you select, or even the program you select to some extent, isn't like the most important thing in the world when it comes to like how much you'll enjoy your university experience. And I think that like it's important that you try to do things that will make like you're going to have to go out of your way to do things that will make the experience like enjoyable for you. So try to like get on that early and like stay on top of that.
That is it for this video. I know it was super long, but hopefully you guys still found some useful information out of it. I've linked some of their Instagrams in the description below, so if you have any questions for them specifically, feel free to reach out to them on Instagram. If their Instagram isn't in the description, feel free to reach out to me and I can ask your question on your behalf. Otherwise, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. For any grade 12s out there, good luck on your university applications, and we will see you guys in the next video.
I went and checked out the first video, and I was checking out some of the comments. I saw one comment that said, the guy who's going to Guelph is really cute, and it got 86 likes. It got 86 likes.
Wait, I actually remember seeing that comment before, but it didn't have that many likes. It had like 3 at the time.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was that big.
I'm like 86 people like that. Oh man,
I think it's so popular.
Yeah,
I can't believe it's still like increasing. Like there's no plateau. Like there's literally no plateau. Like how?
As soon as this video is posted, I'm gonna go up and comment, the guy from Guelph is really cute, and somebody likes it.
I'll be the first
likes
one.
Exponential. Like
yeah, I should make Patrick's face the thumbnail.
Yeah,
We'll get so many
viral parents. Like please.